Hello and welcome to Volusia Magazine. I'm Amber Osman. In this week's episode, passenger numbers at the airport continue to rise. A road is dedicated to a beloved and longtime county resident. And registration for the International Beach Cleanup is fast approaching. Later on in the program, Joanne Magley sits down with Joe Nolin from the Coastal Division. Those segments and more coming right up on Volusia Magazine. I hope you stay tuned. Passenger traffic at Daytona Beach International Airport rose again for the month of June. Traffic increased 8% in comparison with June of last year. During the month, 62,845 passengers flew in or out of the county-operated airport compared to 58,169 passengers in June of 2016. For the 12 months ending June 30th, total passenger traffic at the county-run airport has increased 6.4%, with more than 700,000 passengers this year compared to nearly 665,000 passengers traveling through the facility last year. Jay Cassens, Business Development Director for the county-run airport, said load factor increases were the driving force behind growth in June.
Load factors were up in every airline. JetBlue in particular, we've seen gains every single month this year in 2017 over 2016. All the airlines, the load factors are up so far this year. And we also see Delta and American Airlines adding capacity starting in August. So we expect the year to finish strong, and considering the fact that we haven't had a new destination or a new airline, the fact that we had 8% growth is outstanding.
The airport is served by Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and JetBlue. Learn more about your hometown airport at flydab.com. Charlie Clark Sr. is gone, but not forgotten in southern Volusia County, where he was a much-loved wildlife officer and a lifelong cattleman before his death in 1986. On behalf of the Volusia County Council, Vice Chair Deb Denny's recently joined with Oak Hill City officials and dozens of Mr. Clark's friends and family members as they dedicated a 9-mile stretch of Maytown Road in his honor.
I was approached by community members and one of his sons to see if there's anything we could do to honor his legacy. This is a legacy project, and as you can see, all the people and the family members that showed up today, it's just been overwhelming to them, and it's just an honor for Volusia County to dedicate this road to the Charlie Clark Memorial Road.
Mr. Clark was born in 1900 in Pennachaw, Florida. He and his childhood sweetheart, Vivian, were married in 1923 and settled in Maytown, where they raised 4 girls and 3 boys. His children and other locals shared touching stories of his kindness and dedication to his community.
As growing up kids around here, we'd go to Cow Creek and go swimming for 2 or 3 days, and Mr. Clark come by and check on us. How you doing, boys? So we always knew that he was somewhere in the area. He was watching over us, both to see we was behaving and to take care of us if we needed something. But we knew to behave. He's a great guy, and we've been around here and known the Clark family for forever, just about.
So the unveiling of the sign is pretty important.
Oh yes, very, very, very much. This is an extraordinarily good day.
Charlie Clark Memorial Road winds through some of Volusia County's most rural areas, stretching from Beacon Light Road to Maytown Spur Road. An old illness is making a fresh comeback here in Volusia County. Dr. Holly Smith explains which diseases are on the rise and the challenges doctors face when treating them.
We're not alone in combating this old illness.
That's Dr. Paul Remy. He's the Disease Control Director for the Florida Department of Health in Volusia County. He's talking about syphilis and the fact that here in Volusia County, the rate has increased nearly threefold over the past few years.
Syphilis is an ancient disease. It's been around forever throughout the world, and even in the United States, it's been here for a long time.
Once penicillin became available to treat syphilis, the number of cases dropped dramatically in the U.S. But over the last decade, those numbers have doubled or nearly tripled here in Volusia County, in the state, in the nation. This may sound counterintuitive, but these increases could be because of effective medical treatments and the use of technology.
A lot of it is because we have a fairly simple and easy treatment. People no longer are concerned about it and are not worried about taking the proper preventive measures.
Another working theory to explain the rise of syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia cases is based on hookup apps. Smartphones now can facilitate opportunities for anonymous sex. Dr. Remy says easy access to sexual partners and those effective drugs seemingly have taken syphilis off the radar. Today, we have an effective treatment, but drug resistance is becoming an issue. The general population thinks syphilis no longer is a problem, and that's a problem. And here's another. It's quite possible for someone to have syphilis and not even know it for years or decades even.
With syphilis, the initial lesions for it are very small and non-painful, so oftentimes they go unrecognized, so people can have the disease and spread it without realizing that's what's going on.
Not only are infected people spreading it to each other, pregnant women can pass syphilis to their unborn baby. That can cause serious, lifelong problems for the child.
Thank you for coming in. Today it looks like you're going to do an HIV test, is that correct?
At the Florida Department of Health, clients may be tested for syphilis and other sexually transmitted diseases and also may receive counseling and treatment.
The best way to avoid catching syphilis or any sexually transmitted disease is to not have sex. But if you are sexually active, consider one of these tips to avoid catching a sexually transmitted disease.
Monogamy and the use of condoms. It's the same safe sex message to avoid infection by one of these diseases today or in the future when antibiotics may not be as effective.
If you'd like more information on sexually transmitted disease or if you'd like to be tested, you can go online to volusiahealth.com. That's volusiahealth.com. For the Florida Department of Health right here in Volusia County, I'm Dr. Holly Smith.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Volusia County residents can think globally and act locally during the International Coastal Cleanup and Halifax Indian River Cleanup set for Saturday, September 16th. The county's Environmental Management Division is looking for volunteers to remove trash from beaches, rivers, and parks during this worldwide event. Volunteers can register online at volusia.org/cleanup beginning August 1st, so mark your calendar because cleanup sites fill up fast. Last year, nearly 800,000 volunteers around the world collected more than 18 million pounds of ocean-bound garbage during the International Coastal Cleanup, which is sponsored by the Ocean Conservancy. Volusia County combines the coastal cleanup with the Halifax Indian River cleanup to enhance the environmental impact. In 2016, more than 2,130 Volusia County volunteers collected more than 7,445 pounds of trash from the beach and the Halifax Indian River. Do you know what the top items collected in Volusia County were? Cigarette butts, followed by small plastic pieces and bottle caps. According to Becky O'Keefe, the county's cleanup coordinator, trash in waterways is more than an eyesore.
It actually threatens the health of humans and wildlife, particularly wildlife living on or in the ocean. It isn't just the trash that is deposited near the ocean, it's trash that's deposited miles away, and it could get into a storm drain, for example, and our storm drains lead to our waterways, which could ultimately lead to our oceans.
If you would like to learn how to organize your own cleanups throughout the year, you can visit volusia.org/beachenvironment. 21 cleanup sites are designated from Ormond by the Sea to Oak Hill, but if you have a large group of volunteers, you can arrange for a private cleanup location.
This event makes me proud every year, not only as the cleanup coordinator, but also as a Volusia County resident. I love seeing people come together and clean up the trash around our waterways.
Some river locations have boat launches where you can bring a kayak, a paddleboard, canoe, or motorboat to access hard-to-reach coastlines. Sign up to clean up by visiting volusia.org/cleanup, or you can contact Becky O'Keefe at BOKEEFE@volusia.org, or you can call 386-238-4716.
Mosquitoes will bite day and night, so protect yourself with these tips. Keep mosquitoes outside by shutting doors and covering windows with screens. Use EPA-approved insect repellents anytime you're outdoors. Cover your skin with long sleeves and pants. Mosquitoes lay their eggs in water. Just a bottle cap of water is all they need. So drain, refresh, or cover anything around buildings that can hold water at least weekly, and put away outside items that aren't being used. A message from the Florida Department of Health.
Improperly discarded fishing line is a danger to creatures both in and out of the water. The Underwater Cleanup Program is Volusia County's solution to the problem. Gary Daniels gives us an inside look at this vital program.
When people think about the Ponce Inlet Jetty, they think about the pretty views and wildlife that you might be able to see out there, and the fact that it's a great fishing spot. But what they don't think about is what they can't see, and that's what's going on underneath the water. Fishing line takes hundreds of years to decompose. So over all the years that people have fished out on the jetty, all that fishing line that has either broken from their fishing poles or that blew into the water has gotten entangled on all the rocks. So this means that any fish or crabs or other sea life can get entangled in it. So what we do is we go down and we try to clean up as much of that monofilament and marine debris as possible. When I first dive in, I'm checking my surroundings, making sure that there's nothing harmful in the way. We usually will follow that anchor line down and just gradually go down. And sometimes it does take your eyes a little bit of time to adjust because our water clarity isn't perfect a lot of the time, so sometimes we only have a couple feet of visibility. So it's just a little bit of adjusting at first, and then as soon as you can see a little bit better, then you just get to work. We usually will swim around a little bit until we find a more dense spot of fishing line that's just, once we see that it looks like netting over top of the rocks, we just start cutting it away and pulling it off of the rocks, putting it into a bag, separating anything that might be entangled in it. So a lot of the time sea urchins are hung up in the fishing line. We have found crabs and horseshoe crabs and various types of fish that are still hooked on the hooks that are in the line as well. So it's a matter of, sometimes it does take a lot of time just sorting through the things that need to get out of there versus leaving the native animals and plants behind. So it's not just grabbing it, it's a lot of sorting and making sure that you're not affecting the environment in a harmful way. Dolphins, manatees, basically no marine mammal is immune to being able to get entangled. And the fishing line is so strong, and the more it gets wrapped onto, say, a pectoral flipper, it gets tighter and tighter until eventually it can completely amputate the pectoral flipper. This could be catastrophic for the animal. The problem goes from under the water all the way out into the regular environment. Birds are forever getting entangled in the fishing line as well, either during casting or the line that is just left on the piers instead of being put into one of the recycling containers. They fly off, unfortunately, and then that line can get entangled in trees, and it traps them there as well. I think one of my favorite moments when we were diving was, it was towards the end of the dive. We were actually already beginning to come up and a couple of manatees came swimming past. So just another reminder of why we're out there, why we're doing this, because it's their environment as well. And it was pretty awesome to see them come swimming past you when you're in their territory.
Let's go now to Community Information Director Joanne Magley and her guest, Joe Nolin, Volusia County Coastal Construction Manager.
Volusia County is becoming known for its expansive artificial reef program, which has grown to 148 reefs. So joining me today to talk about the reef system is Joe Nolin of the county's Coastal Division. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joanne. Great to be here.
Thanks for being here. So let's start off with a little history of our reef program. It was started back in the 70s. So kind of walk us through the years to present day.
Well, back in 1980 and the late 70s, as you pointed out, the local fishing community, really the Halifax Sport Fishing Club and the Ormond Anchor Chasers and the charter fishermen in the area that ran charter and headboats offshore Volusia County, began to talk about and push for support for artificial reef construction because other communities had been doing it in South Florida and Central Florida and so forth. And so there was some strong interest from the fishing community is really what drove this. And the Inlet and Port District, the Ponce de Leon Port Authority, which at that time was an independent state special taxing district, engaged the fishermen and helped with the city of New Smyrna Beach, believe it or not, a lot of support from the city, to sink a 445-foot Liberty ship called the Mindanao, about 10 or 12 miles off the coast of Ponce de Leon Inlet. And so it was sunk on the seafloor out there, and it to a great deal of fanfare, right, and interest. And from that, that was in 1980, from that time, there was a tremendous amount of support and interest grew for building artificial reefs. And the Inlet and Port District, which is now a county special taxing district, operated under the Coastal Division, has continued to build artificial reefs from time to time, right? 1 or 2 a year here and there, and then we would take some time off. And
so what are our reefs made of? I know it's a kind of a combination. We have the concrete construction material, we have some ships.
Right, we have, by and large, it's concrete materials that we get donated from the concrete structure and culvert manufacturing industry. Some even local. The Forterra Group and what used to be Lehigh Hanson here in DeLand actually used to provide us some, along with some other manufacturers in and around Central Florida. Would provide us concrete culverts, right? Those are the underground water transmission pipes, right? And they're anywhere from 18 inches in diameter and 8 feet long up to 8 feet in diameter and 20 feet long, right? And they donate those materials, those discards or leftovers in their manufacturing yard. They provided those to us for nothing, right? Because it was the right thing to do to create marine habitat. So we get a lot of concrete culverts, utility poles from various utility projects where they're bringing in new utility poles and taking the old ones out. We also get Jersey barriers. We've just recently, in the last couple of years, got hundreds of Jersey barriers from the I-95 widening project that's been taking place. Once the material's placed on the seabed, it immediately attracts kind of a bacterial growth on it, right, on every surface of the concrete, right, or the steel ship or barge. And following that, you get bait fish. Just within a matter of hours, you'll actually get bait fish start to gather around the site because it's something different, right, on the seafloor that represents structure or habitat or a hiding place. Because the continental shelf off our coast is basically what you've always termed it as a vast underwater desert, right? Or a wet desert, right? For hundreds of square miles, right, on the South Atlantic.
There's nothing, and then you come across these reefs that we have,
right?
And all of a sudden, you know, life.
Exactly. It mirrors the natural ledges that we have in some places that are very few and far between. So our artificial reefs, we've built them closer to shore so it's easier to get to by boat. And good for diving and fishing and that sort of thing, and in areas where there is no natural ledge habitat whatsoever.
So what has the reef program done for commercial and recreational fishing?
Well, right off the bat, it's really been an economic driver for marine industry economic development. The charter fishermen, back in 1991, we did an analysis, right, of the artificial reef system and whether it was functioning in some way, right, beyond creating marine habitat, right, for all kinds of fish, shrimp, and crabs and marine invertebrates, right, that are found on our coast. And we immediately were shocked to have the charter fishermen tell us they make multiple trips in a single day out to the the artificial reefs, right, that are close to shore, 5, 15 miles. They can make 2 charter trips in a day, right, out to these places and troll and catch king mackerel all summer long with our visitors and residents and tourists that want to charter that vessel. So it really created the advent of the half-day trip, right, for charter fishermen. So it's been a marine industry economic driver because recreational fishermen like myself and others, we spend a lot of money and time in our boats and on our passion for fishing offshore. And we go to these nearshore and offshore artificial reefs to fish and dive and spend money to do so. So it's created habitat, but also driven an industry here for diving and recreational and charter fishing.
And so the county has recently acquired another ship. Tell us about that process. How did that happen?
Well, about this, it kind of happened in a quick turnaround basis. We were notified by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, our state partner, the Artificial Reef Program Coordinator at the state level in Tallahassee, notified us and a bunch of other coastal counties that the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Service in Miami had recently had a ship forfeited or seized and forfeited to them for smuggling or carrying illegal contraband, right? So the Customs Service was making the ship available to a community for use as an artificial reef. And this is something the Customs Service wants to do, right? They would rather have it recycled as an artificial reef and an artificial habitat for fishing and so forth than have it auctioned off. So the Customs Service would really digs providing these ships and donating these ships to programs like ours that will pledge to reef it offshore and make it recycle it in that way. So
basically, the county actually just acted first. Volusia County. We were the lucky ones in line.
Yeah, it was a first come, first served basis, and again, through the leadership of the Volusia County Council and the upper management, a decision was made on a quick turnaround basis to engage the Customs Service and request that the vessel be donated and pledge that we would reef it. And they said, great, can you come down and pick it up next week? And we engaged our contractor. We have an artificial reef contractor, and they'll clean it to ocean disposal specifications, and the U.S. Coast Guard will inspect it as well. And they'll safeguard the ship to make sure it's safe for towing. They'll do a tow plan with the Coast Guard and the whole 9 yards. And then in a couple of months, they'll tow it up here to Volusia County and flood it and sink it on the seabed at Artificial Reef Site number 12, which is about 9 miles slightly north of Ponce de Leon Inlet in about 75 to 80 feet of water.
But there's more, because when you were down there, somehow you were able to get your hands on a tugboat.
Yeah, there was another vessel available at the time, and the tugs are usually made of heavy steel, right? They have to move large ships around and tow huge barges and that sort of thing. So they're generally very sturdy vessels, and they make great artificial reefs. They just hold together and they sink right where you want them. So I engaged some folks, the manager, and the manager was very enthusiastic, but it was actually offered at a low cost. So it was a good deal, if you will. And so we'll likely acquire that vessel and haul it up to Fort Pierce as well and clean it for ocean disposal, and then we'll sink 2 vessels.
So the plan is for at a date to be determined later, but probably in a few months, and the county will have a big announcement. We're going to have a big Bon Voyage party where people will have the chance to visit the ship, the big ship, maybe step on it and see it as it goes out to the sea before
Right.
the actual sinking. So we have big plans for a great community event with some citizen scientist portions added to it, some education about reef life and things like that. So that information we'll be passing on as soon as we have more plans about it. So Joe, where can people find out more about our reef system? How can they even locate these reefs here off our coast?
Well, on volusia.org/coastal, there is an artificial reef webpage that has an interactive map that you could actually click onto and click into and find the coordinates and even some photographs in some cases and some descriptions of the various artificial reef sites that we've created offshore Volusia County. There's also another website, volusiareefs.org, that has a listing of all the artificial reefs with a description of what was deposited at each site, and some photographs as well that describe the coordinates and that sort of thing. So there's all kinds of web-based resources, and then there's the Halifax Sport Fishing, Volusia County Sport Fishing chart that we worked with the Sport Fishing Club on, that's available at various marine supply and tackle stores as well. That's a great chart with all the coordinates listed on the back and a lot of the coordinates for the natural ledges too. So there's a number of different resources online and at various stores.
All right, well, the reef system is just, it just keeps growing, and it's great for our community, and it's great for ecotourism. So Joe Nolin with the county's Coastal Division, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Joanne. It's always great to be here.
Amber, back to you.
Thanks, Joanne, and thank you too for watching Volusia Magazine. If you have any questions about the show, you can feel free to give us a call at any of the numbers you see listed here, or you can log on to volusia.org and click on the News tab at the top of the screen to find us. And we hope you won't forget to listen to Volusia Today. That's Volusia County Government's weekly public radio broadcast. Volusia Today airs every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday mornings on the local radio stations you see on your screen. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Amber Osmond, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.